Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel Electric Railway Modelling. And today I'm just going to have a little sort of chit chat, I suppose, about the new year. So Christmas has now gone. We're now into, we're going to be in a new year in a couple of hours. So I'm just sort of pondering about what new toys might be announced. We've on the 5th of January, we have Hornby, who are going to be doing about. Just checking my audio was on. So Hornby are going to be making their 2021 announcement, and it's going to be interesting to see what they bring out there. Now, for me, Hornby is rather controversial, because there's a sort of a weird balance with them that is certainly skewed far more towards steam modelers. And as a diesel and electric railway modeler, that kind of stuff doesn't really appeal to me at all. And so I found in recent years that if you look at what Hornby brought out recently, last few years, it's been 3 steam locos, 3 coaches, and 3 wagons, or a wagon or whatever. But when it comes to diesel electric, you'll get 1 or 2. In total, 1 or 2 things. And I can understand why. There's something called the grey pound, which is, older guys. And you can see this demographic in... so I've got pictures somewhere created stuff. It's not. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so if you look at the demographics for who is going to model railway shows, you'll see that it's a lot of guys that are, pensioners, a lot of older guys, and this isn't really unsurprising. I mean, if you think about it, you've got there are effectively 3 markets that Hornby, Bachmann, Dapol, etc., target. So there's the contemporary market, what's out there right now, Trans-Pennine Express, what was a Pendolino a few years ago? What was a Virgin Pendolino a few years ago is now an Avanti Pendolino. So, and that is always changing and always evolving. So there's always new stuff coming out for that. Always has been. Then there's the 40-year-olds market, and I mean that in a sort of vague sense, because what happens is by the time someone's in their 40s, they're now earning enough money that they can pay for the car and pay for the mortgage and still have disposable income to spend on their model railway stuff. Whereas people in their 20s and maybe 30s usually don't. So, they're still struggling to get by. And then there's the pensioner market. These are people who've worked their entire lives, and, maybe they were interested in trains when they were younger, but unfortunately, girlfriends turned into wives, turned into kids, turned into a mortgage, turned into, a lot of things that take up your time. You go to work, you come home, and it's been a busy day or a hard day, and you just sit in front of the TV and watch some other, So what happens is you get guys that are retired, and it's like, well, what am I going to do with my days now? That 8 hours a day that I would normally go to work, probably 9 hours by the time you put the rush hour in there. Well, what am I going to do with my time now? Sit in front of the TV, go for a walk, So, and that's where it's like, I'm going to build that model railway. Always wanted to, but life got in the way. And so, and I've seen this at shows. I've demonstrated for the DMU Society, and in that time, you can generally tell what someone models by their age, because people tend to model what they thought was great when they were 18. They don't have to hold the mum's hand anymore. They're off to go wandering around looking at railways, and they model those sort of glory years. And I do this. I mean, if you look at my stuff, what you'll see is when I started out, I was doing the contemporary period of the time. I was doing intercity and Network Southeast and regional railways and things of that nature. And as time has gone on, that's gone through privatization, and we're almost like third generation privatization now, because you started off with sort of privatization liveries on 1960s stuff, and then they got rid of the 60s stuff, and now they're getting rid of the 70s and the 80s stuff, such as 313s and 315s. The 142s are going now as well. So that stuff is going, and that's now being replaced by third generation multiple units. When it comes to the pensioner market, these are people that remember steam trains. And unlike when I started, 30 years ago now, the older generation, they were doing, often pre-grouping or LNER, LMS, Southern Region, Great West GWR. And as that sort of clock has moved on, you've now got the people who remember, LNER and LMS and things like that, are often no longer with us. They died out effectively. And so we now have, they have BR steam era, so post 1948, and now into green diesel kind of stuff and yellow ends, and started with a bit of BR blue creeping in. So it's an always evolving thing. But of course, the pensioner market, they have a lot of spending power. And like I say, if you go to model railway shows, you'll find a large percentage of them are old guys with beards. I mean, I was used to be somewhat amused when I'd go to Worley, 10 years ago now, when it used to be held on the same week as the clothes show. So you would have sort of bright young things in the latest clothes mixing on the Pendolino to get back to Birmingham New Street, where they then go in their different directions. They'd be mixing in with old guys with beards and bad breath or something, So it was an interesting contrast. Now it's done with the biker show. Hey there, Brian. Happy New Year to you as well. So what do I think Hornby are going to do for next year? So, it's hard to say. And the reason why it's hard to say is because are they going to, obviously they're going to do mainly steam trains, but are they going to produce some stuff in, current new liveries? Are they going to do some things that they've not done for a while? For example, they've had the ability to, but they've never ever brought out a Class 31-4 in BR Blue livery. And yet, every single 31-4 carried that livery. So it would be nice if they could do that. I'd also like to see a Romanian 56 come out. So far, there's only been a couple, and only really one that is appropriate for a lot of things for my era, because they brought out 56013 in BR Blue, And then they've brought out, a couple of privatization ones, I believe. Certainly a load haul one. And unfortunately, that one's got the revised grills on the end, on the number 2 end. So that's no use to me. But it'd be nice if that came out. So, I saw someone who would like to see one in coal livery. I'd like that too. I'd like 2 of them. But, there's also the opportunity that they may bring out another one in a Class 56 in rail freight construction, thanks to Acura's PTA wagons. They would go very well with those. Perhaps an old rail freight liveried one, without the red soul bar. Now, another one that I'm curious to see, there's expectation that they may do a new Mark IV coach. Now, if it were any other company than Hornby, I would think, yes, they would bring out a brand new tooled model. But this is Hornby we're talking about. And Hornby have a habit of bringing out old stuff and maybe giving it a bit of a tweak. So, for example, if you look at their Class 90 and 86, and I think the 91 used to be like that as well, where rather than have the old-fashioned Ringfield motor, they've basically created a new chassis with a block on it, the hole on it, so you can put the modern motor that they use on things like the 153, the Pendolino, the Javelin, things of that nature. Now, I don't know if will they do it? Will they just pump out the same old 1989 model? Again, it's hard to be sure. Now, as I said, if it were any other company, if it were Bachmann and they announced a new model, you would expect to see a new model, brand new tool in the whole 9 yards. I wouldn't expect them to sort of do a half job. Now, I've got a GNER one. This is something I bought recently. Bizarrely, it's got orange windows. I don't know if you can see this. The windows are actually orange. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with that. But I'm working on my 3rd rake. This will not be in. This will be an intercity livery by the time I finish with it. Now, what's wrong with this vehicle? Well, believe it or not a lot. I mean, it's very dated now. But when it came out, it was a fantastic model, really. It was a full-length coach. Because remember, at the time that this came out, Hornby was still producing their Mark III coach, which was an inch too short, so it could go around first radius curves. This one's designed for second radius curves. One of the problems with it is that the skirting is attached to the coupling, and that just doesn't look right at all. And also the bogies, if you look, can you see how in the center, excuse my nail varnish, I need to top it up, but can you see how the yaw damper there sort of goes goes sort of in and down towards it? Well, apparently the Mark I coaches had a bit of a yaw problem, so it had a lot of wobble at speed, especially when pushing, from what I've been told. And what happened was that part of the reason was that when effectively the bogie was lifting up slightly. So what they did was they basically rotated the bogie 180 degrees, and that fixed the problem. But because the Hornby model has the skirting attached to the bogie, you can't do that with this model. So ever since the original model, effectively the 1989 model, this has been out of date. Since anything that came out post 1990, 91, this is all out of date. So what solutions do they have? Well, like I say, they could bring out a brand new model. And that would be brand new tooling, and will they put lights in it and DCC in it and things of that nature? I don't know, but if they decide that they're going to, make this a little bit better, it's actually easy to do so, because once you remove the skirt, the bogie, the skirting can be glued on quite easily to the end, and they could build in some close coupling mechanism without any end pockets, and they just basically have a new version of the bogie that's just the bogie itself. They might have to modify it to have pickups, so it can, if they want to do lighting in it. Another thing that's an awkward problem with it is that the roof and the ends is actually a glazed piece of plastic, which includes the glazing as well. So all the glazing, the roof and the ends are all a continuous piece. Now, if Hornby were to decide to do a lighted version, they would need to have, it needs to be something that gets assembled. Unlike us, they can't rely on just like gluing something inside, a lighting circuit inside. What they would need to do is have, under the roof, they'd have to have some kind of, circuit board that gets screwed in. So they'll need screw points. So they do have the option of using this part, the body, as it is, have the roof and end pieces as, a solid piece of plastic, effectively, like not glazed plastic, just the same as like you have on the chassis or the body itself, and then have separate glazing that just glues inside. That's an option. Now, I really do. I need 2 trains of Class 91s Mark IVs, and the reason for the speculation for this is because obviously last year they announced the Class 91, which has now been put back to, I think it was April or something like that. Now, I have a budget, and so I've already got 2 rakes, and I'm now working on the 3rd. That's from the 3rd rake. And the reason for having 3 rakes is, if you can imagine my fiddle yard, I'll have 1 train for going clockwise, 1 train for going anti-clockwise, and 1 train in the middle for going bi-directional, and it can have a 90 or an 89001 on it, or maybe even another 91. I'm also getting an extra first class coach so I can do one of the Pullman sets, which had 1 less second class coach and 1 more first class coach. Although sometimes and that's a 9 coach rake. So that's something I'm looking to do. Now, when I upgrade mine, I'm going to create my own glazing and skirting. So this is a drawing I've done for the coach window frames. So these will be very similar to Shore Plans ones with very detailed etchings, and they would just you'd take the model, you file off the window frames that are on the model, and you put in these much nicer, finer scale versions. There are no windows at the moment, as far as I'm aware, but there's a place up the road called Fab Lab, where I'll just take some acrylic sheet and use their laser cutter and pop out my own. And then for the ends, I'm going to create skirting, 3D printed ones. So that's the design I've done so far. It still needs finishing. There's a lot more detail that needs to put on there. And I'm also going to incorporate some magnetic couplers along the lines of Hunt's couplings. Hunt's couplings are fantastic for things like Class 91s and Mark IV coaches because they'll propel them. And one of the problems that you get with the old-fashioned style couplings is I'm just going to take one off. So if I'll take both off to illustrate the point. So one of the problems that you get is when you have two couplings like this, if you go up some bad, over some points, it can lift up like that. And one of the wheels is being lifted up. So, because it's being pushed. And what happens is as soon as it hits some points, it'll all derail. So having something other than this thing, having something to push on, is a much better way of running things like that. So that's so I'll also put full lighting in them, and for the DVT, that'll have a DCC decoder in it, with all the light functions and things like that. And also I'll have designed window frame etches for that as well. So the body and the skirting needs a couple of changes in a couple of vehicles. For example, the buffet car has slightly modified skirting on it because they've got to have water for the sinks and all those sorts of things. So there are little changes that are in there. Now, when it comes to Hornby, what will they have to do to make an old model viable? Well, I can imagine three scenarios effectively. They just keep pumping out the one that they've always used, put a better paint job on it, and that's about it. Option number two is that they do complete new Mark IV vehicles. So TSO, buffet car, and first class, which is the same thing, it just has different seating on it, and the DVT. Hello, Taze, Happy New Year. Not quite yet, but it's coming. Speaking of New Year, I'm in a pretty good situation because I live high up in a block of flats overlooking the entire of Manchester. And, the weather's looking okay right now. I can certainly see Manchester now. Earlier today, this sort of morning-ish, I couldn't even see half a mile, and I live 5 miles away from Manchester. So, but now I can see Manchester, so that's at least 5 miles I can see. And of course, New Year's fantastic here because bonfire night is pretty good with all the fireworks, but that's spread out across the evening. Whereas New Year, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That everyone's shooting fireworks everywhere. So I get a free fireworks display each year. I normally have a little party, and when I say a party, I mean me and a friend or two. And we just like watch a movie, eat some pizza, and then watch the fireworks, drink some wine. Nice, relaxed little thing. Well, obviously with COVID, that's not really possible this year. And it impacted my Christmas as well because, sadly, this was my first Christmas on my own. Normally, I would, traditionally, I would have gone to my mum's, my parents, but unfortunately, she couldn't cope with this, and so she disowned me the day before Mother's Day in 2019. Which was incredibly sad and heartbreaking, but actually made my life easier because I didn't have to walk on eggshells anymore. And now the ball is in her court as to what happens for the future. But so yeah, so I couldn't go to my mum's this year. And last year I went to visit my friend in Plymouth, but unfortunately my friend's got asthma. And given that he would be at a more at-risk category if he was to get COVID. And I would hate to pick it up on the train or something like that and give it to him. So yeah, I spent Christmas Day on my own and had some chicken, and felt kind of miserable actually. But but New Year is going to be different, and I've got a new sort of mindset for the future coming for this new year. So back to the Mark IV. So option 1, completely new tooling. Option 2, Option 1, just use the same old thing they've been using for years. Option 2 is completely new tooling. Option 3 is tweaking the tooling they've got. I suppose you could have 3A, or 2A, which is they create a new DVT, but the rest of the coaches stay the same. If they tweak the old tooling, they could create a new roof and end piece, which will have little screw holes in, change the bogies to have mounts for pickups, and that's about it really. That's all they'd need to do, because despite its age, it's actually pretty well detailed. Not a lot has changed to it. Some windows have been plated up on Buffet cars and things like that. But of course, Hornby being Hornby, they've been quite adept at taking their Mark II E's or F's, painting them yellow, and just having the window that's plated up as painted yellow as well. Or they'll have a body side grille which is nothing but paint. So those are the options. Now I already own 2 3/4 rakes, so I don't really need any more. So I think if they brought out a new DVT, I think I would go for that, and then use the rest of the Mark IVs that I already have for it and upgrade them. Because the way I see it is, they don't cost any more money anymore. Replacing them with something brand new would be expensive, because we're going to be talking at least £40 for each one, probably more like 45 to 50, because of course prices only ever go up. And thanks to Brexit hitting the value of the pound, it means that importing stuff is more expensive these days. Now, with the modelling work in mind, I did buy myself a new present which arrived today, and I bought myself one of these. This is a hold and fold, and if you've never seen one before, they're quite heavy. It's a heavy block of metal. Hello, Richard. How are you doing? So this is a pretty heavy block of metal. I mean, I don't know if you can hear that. It's it's really heavy. It's probably about maybe 3/4 kilo here, I'd say, estimating. And it's got this plate over the top. So what you do is you basically squeeze a piece of brass or whatever, and then there's a little sort of razor blade type of thing, which you then push in and lift up, and that'll give you nice seams. Good for making kits or for modifying things. The other thing that it's got are these curved pieces on it. And what you do is you can just take a piece of brass or something and just stick it in that hole, use a paintbrush or something, and it'll just give you a nice, even curve. But I'll give you an example of how it works. So it came with this little, it's by a company called Piranha. I think it's from Czechoslovakia or something. It came with this little etch, and so I'm just going to bend it So what happens is it gets put between the two pieces, and let me just drop this down a touch. See if I can. So I'm just going to push it in underneath a bit. I'll screw the top plate on down. So you can just see that it's pinched inside that. And then we take our little razor bladey thing. And what happens is you slip it underneath and you can just lift it and push it, and you can get a nice straight corner. So, that's a tool I've been looking to buy for a few years now. I just never got around to it. And so, yeah, I'm quite pleased now I've got this. It will enable me to finish off my my two ScotRail ex ScotRail DBSOs, which I'm converting into flat-ended ones. The problem is that let me just got to turn off the autofocus so I can zoom in. So if you look, can you see next to, on either side of the windows, there are these plates, and it's very difficult to get them looking nice. But what they were, from what I understand, when they first introduced the DBSOs on the Anglia region, they were going a different direction. So in ScotRail, they were going side to side, but for the Great Eastern Main Line to Norwich, that's going north-south largely. So I think what happened was this, the evening sun or the morning sun would basically hit the windows and, mess up the driver's vision. So they just put these blinkers on either side of the window to stop the light from, hitting it at a shallow angle. So, yeah, that's my little present to myself. And as I said, here's the piece that I just did. Let me just turn off the autofocus again, so you can see how it's got a nice curve on it, nice bend. So yeah, that's a new toy that I've got to play with. Anyway, so back to the Hornby stuff. So like I say, when it comes to the Mark IVs, I'm going to upgrade mine. And the plans that I have in mind, originally, I had a plan of using the 4-VEP couplers. So the 4-VEP, if you ever saw one, they had a 4-pin plug and socket coupling, which let's see if I can find it for you. No, not there. Details. No. Normally I'm a lot more organized. Should have checked where I put these things. Maybe it's electrics. No. Okay, no matter. So what the plan was, just trying to see if I've got it anywhere. No, it's not in coaches either. Okay, so what the idea was, you'd have a plug and a socket that clipped into each other as a part of the coupling. And I had this idea of, effectively, if you can imagine your 4 wires inside the coach, the 2 outer ones would, the 2 outer wires would be the pickups, and that would feed all the way back to the decoder in the DVT. And then the DVT would have 2 wires coming out of it for the rest of the train, which would be interior lights. And those, so I'd use all the wheels up the train to avoid any dead spots, and then use the 2 wires for the interior lighting. So on your DVT, you just press function 4 on, and that would turn on the interior lights. Since then, I've changed my mind on that. I was thinking about using capacitors inside and just having a switch. You could turn the light on and off, but that would be very manual. However, I recently bought some 6-function decoders, and I think that those would be really nice. Would be really well applied to a DVT. So what it would have daylights, night lights. So it'd have the marker light. So let me find you a picture of class 91 first. Gone while it was red. Okay. Let's see. Come on. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so if we look at this vehicle, so you can see how the small vertical marker lights, those are one. They're both on all of the time when being used, when traveling forwards. And then you've got the daylight and the night light. So this one here is the high intensity headlight built in, but at night they don't want to be dazzling oncoming drivers, so they switch to the night light instead. And then you've got the red lights. So we're looking at 3 functions there. We're talking about 1. So, 1 for the marker lights, 1 for the daylight, 1 for the night light, tail lights, cab light. So that's 4. And then going down the train would be 3 wires. Blue with the common return, interior lights, and then cab lights. I'm not going to use the VEP couplings. I'm just going to have some small connectors inside, probably in the corridor connection, so that you just, line up your coach, plug it in, couple it up. There you go, easy. And that would then give me through a decoder. I'm actually looking at the wrong end of the train, because really it's the DVT that's the important one. Mark 4, DVT, intercity. So let's see. Bit mucky there, but there you go. There's an example. So, and by the way, horns are at the bottom. This is an air conditioning grill, not a horn grill like the Class 91s. So again, same thing. So the outer lights will be 1 function. The daylight will be function 2, night light function 3, tail lights function 4. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4. Interior lights and the tail lights. I probably won't have a cab light. I don't even use them, and to be honest, they'll be just flying straight through. When I use them on the layout. The vehicle And when I say tail lights, one of the vehicles at the end of the train is called the TSOE. And the TSOE, TSO, end vehicle. So if you look, the Mark IV coaches, they don't have buffers on them. They have just rubbing plates and, with the exception of this vehicle, which is what couples up to the locomotive. And you can see it's got buffers on it, a rubbing plate, and, a knuckle coupler. But if you look at the top here, we've got two tail lights. And, this is what they look like. Now, each coach has them, but I've never seen them on any other coach, any of the other coaches, usually because they'll be sandwiched between barrier vehicles. But the idea is that if you can imagine the train, and if I want to model it as if the TDM system isn't working properly, well, I can, have the loco at the opposite end. So if we go back to 91s, no, that's not it. There's one. Oh no, sorry, that's not. That's loco wrong way round. The big giant person moved it. No, that's not it either, because that's on the Raker Mark IIs. That buffer fitted HST, yes, it's also not what I want. Also HST. No, also crikey. No, it's charter. Mark IIs. Just trying to find one picture where trains where it's running the wrong direction. No, also not that. There is one here somewhere. I know I've got one, at least. Oh, another bang. Oh, there's one, but the question is that on Mark IIs? You can just see it's a Mark IV DVT there. You just see the black there. But effectively, what happens is if the TDM isn't working properly, they'll take the loco off, run it around, and then couple it up to the DVT and then head blunt end first, which is limited to 100 miles an hour, 110. I can't remember what it was now. Also minus twos. Gosh, I know I've got a picture somewhere. No. Those Mark IIs again. As chart train. Do you know, I'm sure I have a picture somewhere. The one operating the wrong way around. This is kind of frustrating. Okay, I've gone all the way to the end and I haven't found one. No. Okay. Well, I do know that I've got one in the East Coast livery that was doing it. Gosh. Oh, there we go. Not quite the same, but close enough. So yeah, like I say, TDM's broken on the end, and so they just take, run the loco round and pull it heading blunt end first. So yeah, that's the idea in mind. Now, other things that that I think Hornby might do is coaches, train formations, charter. So one of the things that Hornby now do, it's come out recently, is the Mark 1 buffet in the 16XX series one, so 1600 series buffet cars, RBRs. Those coaches, you can see there's two of them, and Hornby also do an FO coach, a first class open. Now, I would have bought some of these so far, but so far they've only ever come out with the original B1 bogies, whereas I need Commonwealth bogies on them. So, if they do, then I shall buy. I can imagine this is something they can do for 2021. Another thing that they could do to go with them was some Mark III sleepers with the white roof, like this. And so these do things like the Land Cruiser train. So you've got 7 sleeping cars plus the Mark 1 coaches. We've got a generator van there as well, because the Class 37s there don't have electric train heating. And so, this is the kind of train you would get. So if we look, what we've got here are 7 sleepers. We've got a, looks like a brake coach there. We've got a brake coach here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that one is also one as well. So I think these are FOs, first class opens. 2 buffets. Oh, that's a buffet car. And this brake, you can see it's got a big yellow above it. It's not a very good photo. Let me take to Mark 1 brakes, Intercity Charter, and so this coach here is a that's a BSK, a BFK. So they do this, and this is an option that they could do. Mainly though, they use BCKs, a brake composite coach corridor, and a section of it is first class. Excuse me. And a section, 3 sections are 3 compartments are standard class. Yeah, so these were some amongst the last of the Mark 4 Mark 1 coaches as well. So so yeah, I think this is a possibility. Another train that I think is highly likely this year will be the HST in not that. Just weird. I could have sworn I saved some. Which I'm quite convinced this will come out this year, will be this train. So this is the LSL Locomotive Services Limited Pullman HST train. This train is made out of almost all first class coaches. I mean, well, they all are first class coaches, in fact. And there's an interesting vehicle which is the TGS at the back, but of course it's not a TGS, it's a TGF now, because it's now been fitted with standard class seating rather than first class seating. So that does make it a little bit more interesting. But yeah, we've got 2 buffet cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first class coaches, and a TGF at the back, or at one end. Now Hornby already do the coaches. They already do the locos. The one thing that's different is the headlight, which, knowing Hornby, will probably be a printed sticker on it. So yeah, that's an example of something else. Now, one of the things that I would like to see, and it doesn't matter whether it comes from Hornby or Bachmann or whoever, and this is of no use to me. It really is of no use to me, because I don't do privatization stuff. But I do think that this is something that should be done. And that would be, and I've said this before, if you've ever seen one of my live streams last year, it would be class 377, 375. They're pretty much the same thing. And I think this would be a real asset to any manufacturer. Because if you think about it, when was the last time you saw a contemporary now period model of the southern region? You don't get it. No one does it. And the reason is because there's only one model around for it, really. And that's the Bachmann Class 450. Well, if someone did one of these, they would corner the market for the southern region. Because if you're doing a southern layout of with this livery, they don't run in singles. They often run in pairs they don't. Sometimes they run in singles, but generally they run in pairs or triples, or in this case, even by the look of it, a quadruple. Because there's 1, 2, 3. Looks like something else behind it. So yeah, it would be nice. And of course, there's variations as well, because there are some 3-car trains, some that are 4-car, and a few that are even 5-car. So yeah, a modeler won't need 1 or 2. They might need 10 to really do it justice. Another train that you can do is the 455 and 456, which are from Bretchel, but you've got to be prepared to put kits together. It would be nice to have a new 455. Sorry, try again. Class 465 and 466. Now, the Hornby did a 466, but it's dated. It's extremely dated. I mean, if we have a look, so if we look at it, it's a dated model. See if there's a picture of one open. Okay, that's no use. It's going to require a bit of zooming in. But for the chassis, it's got, a little motor block that fits in, and inside it's got a Scalextric motor. It's really not very good. I wonder if, yeah, so it looks like that on the inside, and one of them has got a motor on it. But it's really, really dated by, and the thing about it is, it has to be remembered at the time that this model came out, in about, what was it, 1994, something like that, I think it was. Hornby was still a toy train manufacturer, shall we say. They did, train sets for Christmas type stuff. That was their core market. A lot of the stuff was based upon their name brand, but there's very little. It's just for pottering around rather than really being that great. So it does looks like someone has gone and upgraded one there. There we go. That's a reasonable picture. You can see how it's just got the brake block, the blocks, and stuff like that. So, like I say, it's a really, really dated model by comparison to today's items. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Now, so it'd be nice if a modern version of those came out. Unfortunately, 456s are a bit of a minefield because there are detail differences. But it would be nice to have that. But like I say, if Hornby or Bachmann did one of these, most of the details aren't very different. If we look, there's two versions effectively. There's the 375, 377 design, and what I mean by that, if we look at the windows, generally the windows are flat pieces of glass that sit on the outside with a kind of flush frame on it, and then the other version is the that's not the best picture actually. Let's go with that one. I want a good jot, which I don't have. Yeah, and then the second version has a proper window frame. You can see how it's got, the frame around the outside rather than the recessed section, which just has a single piece of glazing across it. Now, as I said, the detail differences aren't that great. So if they could produce a unit which has, separate ends, roof and clip-on sides, a lot like what happened with the Bachmann, what's it called? 170 and 166s, sorry. That was made out of separate components. It had, an end piece, a cab piece, a roof piece, and two body side pieces. And of course, it would have one for each component part. Now, if you think about it, if Hornby did it in that fashion, they could do it so that the end pieces can be used on any in a vehicle. So you just need one body shell piece. Sorry, rather try again. You need a body side piece for each individual vehicle. Two for this one. Only one. Sorry, one for each. For each end, and there's going to be slight different changes. A roof that one roof's got a pantograph, one is a full length one, and one is a driving vehicle one. The cabs can be separate components that you just push on. And like I say, if you have separate sides that just clip in and are glued in the factory, you can maximize the output. So yeah, that'll give it a bit better thing. But the thing is, something like a Class 387 would fit really nicely with Hornby's stuff at the moment, because of course, this nice GWR livery that they come out in, many of them, that will fit very nicely alongside Class 800s and HSTs as well. And Bachmann, if they brought out a GWR 166, that would fit in as well. So it would kind of fit alongside other things. And of course, as you've seen, Gatwick's Express livery, there's a new Heathrow Express livery, so that would fit around out of Paddington as well. And you've also got Thameslink, which will go with, because they also operate on the East Coast Main Line. Because I think they've got them going to Ely or something. And so that will kind of expand even better. You can use them with Class 91s. You can use them with Class 800s. Here's one at King's Cross. So it expands the range. It would fit very nicely into stuff that Hornby do. Another thing that I think would be nice for more up-to-date stuff, I haven't organised these, are the let me just check. Great Western. I think these are whole train ones. Yes. Oh, it's the same picture twice. Let's make one go away. So yes, I think a 166. Sorry, try again. 180 would be nice. And the nice thing about Class 180s is that they are exactly the same as. Actually, I think it's details. Yes. So if we look at this, so these are each individual vehicle, and if you look, they're pretty much identical. So you've only basically got two types of vehicle. You've got a driving vehicle, and you've got a trailing vehicle. And if I just open up a second one, I'll compare them. So units, diesels, because second generation, third generation, because they'll also go with 175s. So do I have details one? No. Yeah, I have to say that this is probably one of the dullest liveries I've seen. Okay. Yeah, this is possibly one of the dullest liveries I've ever come across. There are some incredibly dull ones these days. Off-white with a bit of red on the roof and red doors. It's a pale grey. That just looks boring. No stripes, no lines, just plain white. It's ugly. Let's have a look. Okay, so not the best shot. Okay, that'll do. So if we look at this vehicle, oh gosh, it's a bit low res. What's the end of the pile? Okay. So if we compare this coach, they're identical to the 180s, except for the cab end. You know, even the underframe parts. If I, oops, let's just try and make this like this. Zoom in the underframe details and just lift it up. So they're pretty much identical here. If you look, that's that part. You've got large, small, and a couple of things. So large, small, couple of things. Two large ones. Looks like they removed the grill on it or something. Hard to tell if that's recessed. But you know, largely this section is the same. The body shells are the same. You can see how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you know, really the change is here. So they're pretty much the same thing. It's just a different cab stuck on. So if they can do, you know, basically 3 types of body shell, an inner and an outer, and then you know, a cab, they'll be able to replicate the same thing in multiple forms. You know, so that's another option. Again, I wouldn't buy any because that's not my period. Although to be honest, I might be tempted at one of these because I've always liked the Barbie Great Western livery. I think it's so cool. I love the yellow to white blend there. So yeah, they're really pretty unit. Just going to get a drink. But for stuff that I would like to see for me, for my modeling, I would like to see some Mark II Bs and Cs. So something like this. You know, so this is something I can imagine Bachmann doing. It would fit very well with their Mark II Zs and Mark IIAs, particularly the Mark IIAs. But they were also used quite widely on everything from intercity trains and regional trains, and also things like Network Southeast as well. So Transpennine also had a couple as well. So and the, you know, there's not a lot of difference between Bs and Cs. The body shells are largely the same. The only difference is in the roof, where Mark II Bs have got little dome ventilators, whereas Mark II Cs have either large kind of large ventilators, very similar to what's on the roof of Glass 20, or smaller Rovac ones. There you go. See, those are the quite big ones, and then these are the smaller Rovac ones. So it would be nice to see this. That would be a nice one for me. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. You know, nice to see more love. Yes, I agree. The Mark II Pullmans would be nice too. Slightly surprised that Bachmann didn't do those when they did the Mark II and Mark II Z. Sorry, Mark II Z, Mark II A. Coaches. That would have been nice. So, so that's largely it in terms of new stuff. I mean, obviously we're going to see Hornby pump out more stuff in the stuff they've already got in new liveries. One of the things that kind of irritates me with Hornby is their Class 66 that they do, which is the Limby model. It's basically the Lima tooling with a new box on the chassis so that they can put a new motor in there. That's the difference between them. But, obviously those are designed for people on a budget. I think that's the best things to say. I mean, if you want a good one, you can buy the Bachmann or Hatton's one. Although I've heard there's a few quality control errors with the Hatton's one, but the reason why it kind of bugs me, and that's because if effectively Hornby have just pumped out, their Limby 66 in any conceivable livery that they can stick on them. But the problem is most of the time, especially in modern liveries, you'll find that it uses the low emission body shell. So if I let me just go to my 66s. So trains, locos, diesel, type 5, 66. So if we so the original EWS ones, they all had the they all had the standard Y-pack lights. I mean, there is little variations between them. Some of them have different lashing points for when they held them on the ship. And some have a coupling hook that goes to the side for, hauling heavy stone trains or coal trains, rather. So, yeah, these are the standard design. And, anything that they do with the standard model is fine. But a lot of the time when we look at other ones, you can see how they've got a different light cluster here. So that's the standard Y-pack light. These are the different ones. And often a lot of the other ones, they're low emission ones. So if we look, excuse me. So there's an example of one of the low emission ones. If you look, it's got a door in the middle with a set of steps leading it up to it. This is a thing. This is something that that Hornby don't do. They don't do the low emission version. So as a result, it's always wrong, really. I mean, there's the door in the middle, and there's the steps leading up to it. So, yeah, when they pump them out in all these different color schemes, of which, the loco shape never fitted, it just feels a little bit of, a con, really. You're not getting it as it is. You're getting a sort of representation of it, effectively. Yeah, it's a 66, but not all 66s are alike. So, having, one that doesn't look right just niggles at me. But again, not everyone has the interest of going to the kind of detail that I do. So what have I got planned for the next year? Well, like I say, I'd like to do the Mark IVs. Once I've got those last three, the last three of the first class coaches, I'll be ready to, I need to buy wheels for pretty much every single one of them, because the old-fashioned plastic wheels with the rims on them, those are no use at all. They're number one, they're too fat. But in addition, they got pizza cutter rims and they just look awful. And on code 75, they bounce along the sleepers. So they're no good, really. The other option. I'll be replacing the wheels. I'll be, getting some sheets of window frames done, and I'm going to make these available to other modelers. However, I'll basically be buying 3 sheets for me, and I'll take orders. And when there's enough to cover the cost of a new sheet, then I will buy that and chop it up into pieces to send out to customers effectively, if they want to tag on with my thing. It probably won't last for long, so it's one of those things. If you have an interest in maybe doing it, getting them while you can, because I don't want to end up with a load of etches that I've spent a load of money on, sitting in a folder somewhere, in a box somewhere, because no one's buying them. I'm not going to buy 20 sheets of these things in the hope that people will buy them. I will just have the ones that I've got, and then are you still watching, Richard? Because if you want, you can come and join in. Be nice to have you. And goes out to anybody, really. Chatting to people, I enjoy that. Just monologuing, it's somewhat boring, really. I can do it. I have a reputation for doing it, but yeah. Now, the other thing that I'm working on at the moment, and this is something that's quite important to me because I'm going to lead lots of them, and that is I'm working with electric train heating gear. So things like these that I managed to acquire. So these are the electric train heating plugs and sockets that you find on locos. So if I share the screen, so let's take one of my favorites, the Class 33. So if we look, we can see there's a lot of details on the so yeah, you can see you got the all the outputs and things like that. So let me so there's 3 major pieces. You've got the 600 volt output for electric train heating. So this goes from the electric train heating power output in the loco. So it's attached to the engine and creates the electricity that the traction motors and electric train heating, things like that, acquire to. So that's the output. You've got the receptacle there, so that if it's not coupled up to it, the cable goes into that. And then on the other side, this is the socket, so that when you have a loco, you just plug into that. You know, a coach, sorry, has one on there, and they plug into that. So there's two versions. There's two versions of the doesn't really show the best job. So yeah, there's two versions of the output on locos, but they're largely the same thing generally. So yeah, it's basically a big box with a big plug sticking out of it, and then the cable. And like this. There's the socket that can be found in locos. Again, I've got the drawings and I've got a tape measure. So yeah, that's that. And then there's the receptacle, which just holds the plug. So like I say, you unplug this, plug it into your coach at the side. Let me just take a drink again. Hello, Scott. So yeah, I've been working on one of those. I'll turn the program on so you can have a look. And then for ETH and the coach version, rather mucky in this example, but here's a simple one. So this is largely the same box piece, except for it comes out there and it's got this little flap over there. And that's the, so if you can imagine, it comes from the loco at this end, goes down through the coach, stopping off to power electricity for that, then comes down here, and then that goes into the next coach. So yeah, effectively it's just a different plate with that piece on the top. Now I've started work on this one. Oops, that's not the one I want. That one. So this is what I've drawn so far. So this would, for example, would be under your loco with the plug going out there, or the same thing with the plug going out at the bottom with the flap thing, like that. So this part is pretty much exactly the same. It just has a different piece on the top of it. So one of the people that I know from DMU are models. There it is. Just waiting for it to open. Okay, so Andy Molyneux, sorry, Guy Molyneux, who is one of the people I know in the DMU Society. He does the Rovac vents, which you can find in those Mark II Cs. And he's done a great design for these, because if we look at the 3D drawing, what he's done is 3 sides of a cube. So he's arranged it there we go. So you can just about make it out. So yeah, there's 50 on each side, on each face, so that's 150. And if we consider, imagine having two versions of this, one face would be, one would be for coaches, one would be for locos. So what you would have is on this face, it would have the receptacle. On this one, it would have the socket, and this one, it'd have the 600-volt output. And then for coaches, the same thing, effectively, except for for this piece here would be the last piece I showed you with sort of the flap style coach electrical output, or rather going through it. So yeah, having one of those would be fantastic, because of course, if you think about how you would run these, how would you would use these, you would stick them under your class 37s or 47s or 33s, 31s, 31.4s in particular. So you'd be able to stick them under all those different kind of locos, and anything with the electric train heating, basically. And you would need 2 per loco. So if we, that's basically 75 locos worth. No, it can't be. Sorry, 25 locos worth, rather. Is it? I'm no good with mathematics. So you'd have 50 divided by 2. Yeah, it's 150. That's right. 50 on each face. That's it. Yeah. My head was thinking right, but sometimes when I start thinking about maths, I overthink it. So yeah, the idea is you got 25 locos worth, and it'll cost you about 40 quid, which is a lot cheaper than the PhD models one, which is like almost 10 quid a coach, a vehicle. Sorry, I'm gonna try and PhD models. Okay, why? Okay, no, not that. Okay, well, that is what I was looking for anyway. Okay, so what's he got here? Oh, now he's got that for these are for locos, but it's 25 quid near enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locos. That's very expensive. And these are even worse. That's 1 loco's worth is cost a tenner. So yeah, my design, I think, based upon this, would be better. Let's go crazy and say it costs £50. Well, that does 25 locos. So let's say 50 divided by 25. That's £2 each loco. A lot cheaper than £10 each, isn't it? So that's where my thinking is on that regard. And this will enable people to just buy them, spray them orange and just glue them straight on their model. And what I'll do is I'll have a hole that's drilled into it, and all you need to do is just get a piece of wire and just, bridge between the two. One of the things you can get, an option, is when you go to fishing shops, they often have some very thin tubes that they use for doing fly fishing hooks and stuff. So you can, I've got some of that, and the idea is you just stick it in, it bridges between the two, and it's flexible as well. So that's my thinking on that. So what have I been buying lately? So I actually figured out that I spent £4,000 on model railway stuff this year, which is a record. It's a huge amount. It's baffling how much. I bought a lot of coaches, I think it was 50 coaches I bought this year. And I think it was about 15 locos, 3 units, and quite a few wagons as well. Because one of the trains that I bought this year was the Akira scale PTAs. I bought 20 of them so far. I need another 10, but that'll be in a couple of weeks' time, 2 weeks on Tuesday. So the ARC liveried ones have been a little bit controversial in the thread on the DMU Society, because effectively the debate is custard or mustard. Because this is one of the pictures that was used, I believe. That's one of the pictures that was used to gauge the colour, but it looks a little bit. It doesn't seem to have enough mustard in it, and the difficulty is for something like this, is that it very much depends on a whole series of factors. So one of the interests that I have is I do aircraft, and so back in the late 90s kind of time, there was a company called JMC Air. They later went on to become Thomas Cook. And they had this rather interesting color scheme. And one of the signifiers is this lime green tail. And there was a joke at the time within these circles of never the same green twice. Because when someone took that photo, let's have a look. When is this? 2001, June 2001. So this is before good quality digital cameras were about, really. You could get some digital cameras, but they were very, very expensive. So only the pro photographers would be using them. And if I sort of go through several pictures, you'll see what I mean. You've effectively got sort of ambient light going on. It depends on the weather. What color it comes out like. What did that do? Oh, crying out loud. So yeah, this is an example. If you look at this green, so what happens is, let's say I'm an aviation photographer. I've got an old style camera, but it's still a damn good one. So what happens is I take the photo, I take my film to the developers, to the photo lab, and they will then, process it using what they've got. But it very much depends on what their toner's like. What their printer cartridge, for the photographs, what the settings are. How is it, more green or less green, more blue, less blue, and so on. So you can see how, you've got a combination of ambient light, you've got differences in photo labs, and then, of course, we've got people who took the photo and that they put it on the scanner and they scanned it, and it depended on how the scanner was set up as well. So when you put it on the internet, again, it's the joke of never the same green twice, because, like I say, it changed according to what photo lab was used and so on. So that's an example of the the PTA. So if we look at the PTA, that's one of my photos there. We can see that sort of there's a range of mustard in there, and that looks closer to my memory of ARC trains. And unfortunately, you can't go up to one with a swatch or something these days, hoping you've got the right one. And of course, we also have to remember that they would be weathered from the dust off the stone, and all that kind of stuff. So, like I say, there's a lot of variation going on. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to repaint mine or not. What I might try and do is add some, put some weathering on and see if it can be disguised. So far, I have 20 of these, although I'm only modelling 18 in a rake. However, all is not lost, because the 2 extra vehicles that I don't need, I'm going to be using for a Foster Yeoman train. So now, so far, this is the livery that Akira Scale did for these. Now, Rails of Sheffield kind of stuffed up my order, because what you've got is 5 packs for £150 each, and you've got a pack of either inners or outers. So it would be 3 inner wagons and 2 outer wagons. The outer wagons have got buffers on. The inner wagons have just got knuckle couplers on, and they would be, they're called tipplers because when they were used in steel terminals, they could rotate them and empty the cargo out of them, empty the iron ore. So yeah, that's the color scheme that they brought out so far, but that's not the era I'm doing. I'm doing them like this, where if we look, you can see how the Yeoman branding is slap bang in the middle here, whereas in the period I'm doing, it's offset at the other end, and there's the big Y logo. So when I get, I need 2 packs of inners, that will then allow me to have enough of these to, like I say, I'll repaint them all. Excuse me again. Oh. So, but one of the things that I'm looking to do, one of the things that happens on these is that there's a sort of bulging effect. Whether it's the combination of stone pushing out or a big massive digger grabber that scoops the stone out from inside the wagon. and that basically does a lot of pounding. You see a lot of little dents and dents and ripples and things like that. So yeah, that's what I got in mind. That's what I'm working on at the moment. And then the next thing after that, I need 4 of the Bachmann 117s in that was Southeast livery. That will be so when I build my layout, I'm going to have sort of 3 general styles for it. So I'm an idiot. I've got an eclectic taste. There's lots of stuff that I like, and lots of stuff that I've already got. So it made sense for me to just buy things when they're available. And of course, when I first started, I've not stopped buying model railway stuff. 30 years I'm into this hobby now. Started in 1988-ish, 89. And, over time, I've got better and better at doing various things. But for my... so over time, I've sort of picked up lots of things that I like. I like Class 91s, Mark IVs, and HSCs on the East Coast Main Line. I love 307s in West Yorkshire PT. I think it looks fantastic. So, I'm going to have a sort of West Yorkshire-ish, Doncaster, Wakefield, Leeds kind of an area. And, have stone trains, coal trains, things of that nature. Another part of the country I like is obviously on my side of the Pennines. When I go to Manchester and things like that, I would see Class 91s and Mark IIIs with a DVT on the end, or 47s or 86s on cross-country trains made out of Mark IIs, mainly E's and F's. And, you also got things like 304s mingled in with them, with 101s and 108s and, various other things. And then finally, there's when I first moved, before I moved to Manchester in 1991, I lived in Devon, and I would frequently go down to Exeter. That was my local mainline station. And I was there at the end of the 50s, and, DCWA Class 37s replacing DCWA 50s. 47-7s hadn't quite appeared then. They came in 91, just after I'd moved. So I got to, travel on Class 50s. I used to just get them as far as Exeter Central to Exeter St David's. So I've had all but 6 for haulage. And a few others that have had longer ranges. Hi, Natalie, how are you doing? Hope you had a nice Christmas. So, so one of the things that I really love is sort of the Great Western-ish kind of an area. HSTs, Class 47s, hauling rates of Network South East Mark 1s and 2s, 117s, later 166s and 165s. So, I have that taste as well. Now, one of the things that I've noticed people do is that they'll have, 15 locos and 1 or 2 units. Whereas the reality is that you'll, no, I have no memory of the Westerns at all. I didn't get interested in trains until 1988 because I used to go to boarding school, and I'd go from Doncaster to Devon every other weekend, go home and then go back on the Monday. So as a result, I was just bored on a train, because back in those days, a Walkman would only last about 40 minutes before the batteries ran out. So you could get maybe one side of the tape or maybe the other side. And I had a couple of packs of batteries, but you can only listen to music for so long, or look out the window, or read a book or something before you got bored. And I was a young teenager at the time, 12, 13, 14 kind of an age. And it was just boring, and I was complaining about it one day, and someone said, "Why do you get the train numbers?" So effectively, I became a train spotter. Yeah, I'm 46. 47 in just over a week's time, because there's a nice transition. You've got Christmas Day, New Year's Day, my birthday, all in sequence. Anyway, but yes, Barnstable trains. Never used to have those at that time. They were more in the 80s. But I did get a couple of Class 50s hauling coaches or a 108 or 101 DMU up to Barnstable because of unavailable traction or whatever. Or drivers, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I did see stuff on the East Coast Main Line when we lived in Peterborough area, Stamford. But, we went down to Huntingdon one time on the train. But I know that I saw 40, but I don't really know enough. I don't really have any memories of that stuff. So I've never always been into trains. In fact, I've been more into railway modelling since before then, because I never had a train set as a kid. Yep, no Deltics. It was end of the 50s basically period for me up till today. So so what was I saying? Yeah, so the third place, like I say, is the Great Western. So I like my Class 33s, 50s, 47s, HSTs, things of that nature. So what I'm effectively doing is I'm going to have a layout that I can change the overhead wire masts, or so to East Coast Main Line or West Coast Main Line, and then for the or have blanking plugs with like just ballast on or something for doing a dieselish era. So the reason why I want 4, because it relates to what I was saying a moment ago. When people buy units, they're not as cool as locos, so they'll end one of them. But if you look at the real railway, you didn't have 1 or 2, you had several. So when it comes to doing a sort of local hauled service in 1960s stuff, just before the 166s and 165s took over, the idea is that I'll have 2, one going one way, one going the other. But of course, rush hour, they'll pair them up, so you'll have two 3-car units and another 2-3-car units going the opposite direction, and then I'll mix in with them 101s, 104s, 108s, in there as well, 128, 119. So all those can be mixed within that sort of range. So that's the plan for that. And so there's a few things that I need to pick up this year. So like I say, first of all, PTAs are the most important one in the short term. The next one are the Bachmann 117s, 4 of them in Out Southeast. I could do with another 3, 2 in Regional Railways and 1 in the Great Western colours, but not the version that Kerno did, the Regional Railways era one, where the yellow was a bit smaller on the front end. And also, obviously, Hornby are bringing out class HSC power cars with the buffer fitted stuff. So that's that's important to me. I need 1 set of those. I might buy 2 with the goal of swapping, because I need some of the ones that Hornby originally released. I need some of the Virgin liveried ones. So if anyone wants to do a swap for the buffer fitted ones, for the original Virgin liveried ones, I'd be up for a swap. Now, bear in mind, when I say the original Virgin ones, I don't mean the old Hornby Shorty, coach type ones with the Ringfield motor in the loco. I mean the the new design, the first release. The one that you can put DCC and just plug it in. Yes, the Tisley area had a real mixed bag of stuff. That you would have 115s, 116s, 127s as well in there, because when the 127s were removed from, replaced by 317s and later 319s, it was 317s originally, before they built Thameslink. But the original, the 127s, the centre cars were still useful, even though the outer driving vehicles were they were beyond their usage dates by then. So they were all withdrawn. Some were turned into parcels units. You'd get like a 115, a 115, a 127, and a 116 all in one unit, in a 4-car unit, which is what they used on the cross-country route. Sorry, the cross-city route before 323s turned up. And electrification, of course. The other thing that I need to find is Bachmann have brought out weathered Class 85s, and they need some of those as well. I need 3 of those. One to be 85018, which I've had for haulage out of Manchester to Longsight. When I fell asleep on a train one night and ended up and woke up at Longsight, and I got a cab ride back to Piccadilly on that. And then the other 2 will be 85-1s, which have the electric train heating turned off and reduced speed. So yeah, there's that. But those are the most important parts. Can I be a pain in the ass? What areas and time periods you're discussing? Okay, so my modelling period is the late 80s up until about 95. The core of it is 92, 93, but I'm doing some stuff that's before that and stuff that was after that as well. So, for example, after that, I don't do Transrail load haul or mainline, but I do rather like 325s and 365s. So if I can make or get models of those, that would be good. But yeah, the core of it is sort of 92, 93 era, but also like 1990, 91, 92, 1991. All sorts of things that I just find interesting. And I'm fortunate, like I say, when Bachmann and Hornby brought out things like, their newer Class 47s and 37s and 56s and 31s and 08s and 20s and things of that nature, I was buying a Bachmann Class 47 or 37 for like 50 quid, and Hornby were like 65-ish quid for a 31 or a 56 or a 60, things like that. So I was buying at those prices. Well, today's prices, much later. Is it too late for 303, 304, 305, 308, 309, 310s? No, because all of those are on the list. I'm on my modelling list. I own a DC Kits Class 303 and 304. 305s had moved to Manchester during 92 in Ridge Railways livery. 308s, they moved up in '94 to West Yorkshire. 304s were at the end of their lives, but still quite strong at the time. Really, it comes down to you just look in one of these, and if I look at 304s, there's still most of them still in service. And the yellow ones are ones that I want to do. I never saw 312s on the West Coast Main Line. They'd gone to the Great Eastern. In fact, they'd gone to the routes out of King's Cross, but later moved to the crikey, what do you call it? Out of Liverpool Street, or even Fenchurch Street. So 308s and 308s, 302s, 310s, and 312s. They were operating out of Fenchurch Street, no, it's not at all. I enjoy talking about this stuff. And again, if you were to look at my model list, I've got a good range, not just one or two, but effectively a fleet. So the idea is, and again, I also quite like some of the Great Eastern stuff. In terms of express trains, there aren't very many. There's basically the rakes and Mark IIs hauled or pushed by a 86 with a DVT on the end. DBSO on the end, an Anglian liveried one. Intercity Anglia one. And at the end of their lives, with the Class 47s going up to Ely and that kind of thing. No, 317s had finished by then. By the time I moved to Manchester, the 317s were all on the West Anglia or out of King's Cross route. Tell a lie. There were a couple that were still doing St Pancras trains, and they also went down to Moorgate here and there. But for the East Coast, for the West Coast Main Line, the 317s had gone. They were still using 310 ones out of in the Birmingham area. But yeah, 317s at the time. Not my time. I mean, at the start when I started looking at trains, yes, they were there, but I never saw them. Because what would happen for me, we'd go up, the train would go to Birmingham and then go out the opposite direction to go to up to the northeast southwest route towards Doncaster, Derby, Sheffield, Doncaster, that kind of direction. Until I moved to Manchester, I'd only seen 3 AC electrics. Sorry, that's not quite true. I did actually take a trip with my best friend at the time to Crewe, and I can tell you the date because it's in here. Because I saw 86419, which is here at Carlisle, but I saw it at Crewe that day. I saw it with a couple of 85s hauling Freightliner trains. Class 90s was still Rutherford Distribution Class 90s were push pulling Mark III sets to sort of wind them up. So yeah, that's so the idea for me is to have both local trains, one up, one down, and then and then have units interdispersing all that, also doing their standard stuff. So that's my plan. I want to have something as realistic to the real thing as possible, because my idea of model railways, because there are people that do different things. Now, don't forget, rule one applies. People can run whatever they want on their layout, and that's brilliant. For me, I have higher standards, and these are standards for myself. I don't, I describe what I'm into. I don't prescribe that everyone should do it like me. I'm not an elitist. It's not my style. So I'm working on a list, looking at the liveries locos carried from when to when, so I can kind of have them overlapping to, so I if I say I'm going to run a summer Saturday in 1992, well, for example, let's use Class 86s. So Res livery first was put on 86401. That was the first 86 to carry Rail Express Systems livery. I'm modelling 86401 in Network Southeast. So I'm not going to be running it after, what was the date on it? Let me just have a double check. I scanned Simon Bendel's retrospective videos, articles. Let's have a look. Oh, sorry, that's parcels read. Rail Express Systems. Okay, so December 1991. So if we imagine okay, so the Res 86 I'm doing is 86426, which was painted in Res livery at Doncaster Works in July of 92. So if, let's say, I'm modelling August of 92, 86401 in Network Southeast will not be allowed on the layout, but 86426 would be. One of my favourite locos is 86416. Mainline livery, full yellow winds, titchy tiny numbers that everybody hated. Now, that loco, that was painted into Res in December of 92. So I could use that on that layout. So that sort of, that's two different parcels 86s that can be used at the same time. What you mean with the lights? Yeah. So, like I say, that's the, that's my mindset there. Going to try and make it so that everything, where one loco overlaps another one, then I can, if I'm modeling that space there, I can use both of those locos. If I'm modeling this time period, I can't use that one. And if I'm doing this one here, I can't use that one. So it's all, like I say, overlapping so that it all looks realistic. And like I say, again, this is a standard that's for me and me alone. I don't expect everyone to follow my standard. If people want to mimic that, fine. But, it's, again, rule one applies. Run what you like. I've seen someone's got a layout where they've got a Javelin and a Class 19 in city livery. They were never even the same livery at the same time. But if it makes them happy, there you go. That's that. So, like I say, I want to have everything looking just right, because effectively, the way I think of railway modelling is I'm replicating, my memories. Effectively, I'm replicating when I thought railways were fantastic. Today, I'm not so keen on the real thing anymore, because all those favourite locos and units and things from the past no longer exist. I mean, I actually get a little bit sad when, like, for example, I get Rail Express magazine. It allows me to keep in contact with what is going on the railway. And I look and I see, the Class 90s have now been removed from the Great Eastern Line. So on the passenger trains, or been replaced by new units. They've now gone to, with the exception of the first two, which went to Locomotive Services Limited and got painted in city livery, which looks very nice. Intercity logos are a little bit small, but whatever. So yeah, from 90003 to 15, they've now been bought by Freightliner, and they're going to be used to operate Freightliner trains, which will allow the 86s to be disposed of. So I kind of feel sad. I feel really sad that the 86s are going, that the HSTs are pretty much gone. On high-speed trains, because up in Scotland they can't run at that kind of speed. They can't do, 125 miles an hour. Things like the 315s have now been, that's it. No more 315s. They've all gone now, or replaced by 710s, I think it is, and all sorts of other new trains. So it's pretty sad to see the old stuff gone. I miss 304s. I miss going down from Manchester to Crewe, or even better, getting the train down to Stoke, and then sort of going across on, from Stoke to Manchester, that short one, that sort of pops in next to Crewe Carriage Shed. Now, the 304s, they used to have a really bumpy, they had a bumpy ride. They had really springy seats, and you would bounce on them. And then when the train stops, you'd have the you'd have the compressors, or just have that kind of noise going on. That's something you don't get anymore. My local train station is Guy Bridge. I miss having 305s clackering across the point work, where the route that go, sort of the Guy Bridge East. I don't know what the name of the junction is called, but it's the east side of Guy Bridge, where you've got the line that goes up to Staley Bridge, which leaves the line that goes down to Rose Hill and Hatfield. So, like I say, the bouncing, the clackering noise, all these things are now lost. And so when I build my layout and I operate the stock, the idea is that I'm creating a window in time that you can peer through and see what things used to be like. This is one of the things I love about railways. No, that's further north. So that's an example of how I see railways happening, and that's what I want to replicate. So yeah, that I'm describing getting old to a T. Yes, that's true. And the thing is, it is true. I remember back in the early 90s, I'd park myself at the end of Piccadilly train station to watch, maybe a couple of Freightliners go through, but mainly, cross country, 86s and 47s, bringing makes Mark twos from Plymouth and Birmingham and and Brighton and not Brighton. Did they go to Brighton? Yeah, I think they went to Brighton. But stuff like that. You see, you're 10 years older than me. Effectively, I'm 46 now. In a week tomorrow. So I'd see that. I'd see 87s and 90s on Rakes and Mark threes with a DVT come into Manchester from London. You'd have 304s and 305s, and even later 309s. I'm not modelling any in that period. So all those sorts of things going on. You get occasional Freightliners go down, usually 47 or maybe in the 86s or 90. What else? Obviously, you've got 142s, 150s, 156, 158s, obviously on the Transpennine stuff. I didn't live here when the Transpennine stuff was running. I moved to Manchester in the spring of 91, and it was the January of 91 they introduced the 158s, replacing local old services. But my granddad lived near Mosley, and so the Christmas of also the New Year kind of time of 1990 into 91, I was watching the trains go past. I remember seeing the Queen Mother, 86. Sorry, try again. 47541, the Queen Mother in Intercity ScotRail livery. So in old Intercity livery with ScotRail lettering. The last 47 local old service of 1990 was 47640, University of Strathclyde, which was in large logo at the time, painted into parcels red not long after finished. So yeah, I saw that kind of stuff. That was really cool. Yeah, what was that? Remember 81 to 85s. What thrill was this to see the Manchester Pullman passed? Let's not mention 44s on turret and 3 Spires rugby coal trains. Yeah, a bit before my time again. So yeah, what happened? I would be part getting old, the old getting old thing. So I'd park myself on the end of platform 8-9, which was the long platform, and watch all these stuff coming in and out. And I, sort of end up with some old guy, and he was talking about, oh well, I remember they're all green or they're all blue, and they weren't class 47s; they were brush type 4s. And I'd be like, oh come on, look at all these modern, bright, cheerful color schemes, Intercity, Network South East, Parcels Red, things like that. Well, now I look at modern color schemes on trains and think, oh gosh, it's just boring. Unless they're slapping you in the face with their swooshes and weird angles and things like that, you won't notice them. So, I mean, the only positive thing I think I can say is that railways have done what railways do, and that is replace old stuff with better stuff. Because at the end of the day, railways have always done that. They've always replaced with a new generation of things that can do the same job, but faster, more efficiently, accelerate quicker, and things like that. I've said this before, that diesel and electrics are better in every measurable way. They're, like I say, they're faster, cleaner, more efficient. They accelerate quicker. They got more, power on them, things like that. So all those sorts of things. But what can't be measured is the heart. And I'm now seeing the same thing. Although in my head, my rational side knows that pendolinos are better, that they can do 125 miles an hour, where a Class 90 and a Raker Mark IIIs can do 110. That the acceleration difference, it's huge. I remember the first time I had a pendolino and I was like pushed on the back of my chair. It's like, oh, this is a bit rapid. So, like I say, it's that realization that things have changed and things will always change, and it's not going to be that. I mean, if you look around, I remember when when the Eurostars were first introduced in 94, 95 kind of period. And it's like, wow, look at this brand new train. And some of those have been scrapped already. That's just weird. Brand new trains that are being scrapped. Or like, they're not new, but they're 20 years old now. But even then, they're not like worn out as such. It's just that there's better ones to replace them. So, again, it kind of goes back to nostalgia. That, I want to model what I thought was cool. And so I create this window in time that I can look through. And, when I build the layout, I'm going to be able to put, I'll be able to do some live streams and, record video footage and things like that. So people can see this picture that I'm creating. Now, until I build a layout, I've got a nice thing that I want to make. I'm going to make myself a little diorama. I actually did it based upon one photo, just skimming through someone's Flickr stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. And I had a few ideas, but I've got a new one that is just perfect. I'll show you the one that I had, the previous one I had, but again, it'd take a lot of time to produce this. I thought that was great. And this is on the it's on the route that that goes from Newcastle to Carlisle. And I just came across these couple of pictures, and I went, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant! That'd make a great diorama. You just have a sort of basically a plank of wood, maybe a foot wide, and it's just got a bridge and some trees either side of it, and that'll be a great way to, to photograph the models that I do." But recently I found, I thought that was quite good as well. Another thing where effectively the track is, up on a pedestal, it's up high, so you can just have this sort of rolling hill thing. This is just south of Glasgow area, so you can hide the intro part and the out part with a couple of hedges in the foreground, and just have some trees and stuff in the background. and that would create that nice, photographic diorama, so I can photo new stuff. And so there it is. That's the full thing. Not very long, but good for taking photos of locos or coaches or units or wagons or whatever. And then I found, where is it? And then I found this, and I went, oh my gosh, that's just perfect. Not too busy. It's not going to cost a fortune. All I need is some trees and, some grass and bits like that. And, this little bridge thing, almost looked like a tunnel, but it's, really cute and everything with the vines on. Now, it looks quite different today. I actually did a so I find out where it is, and like I say, it's just on a road on the you can see it sort of 2/3 of the way towards Carlisle on the same route. And I mean, it's much more overgrown today. If we go down here, look, there's a lot more growth. So you can barely even see the train on it. But I do like this little tunnel. So like I say, these trees are huge. When we're looking at comparison, you look at this, and you look at this, same place. That's the same location. And the good thing is that having this makes it possible to figure out the size of it, because we can use Google Earth, and we could just sort of, one end of the tower to the other one, which is, 19 feet. Let's do it in centimeters. So if we take our little, 593, let's call it 600. So 600 centimeters divided by 76.2, which is double O gauge, or 4 mile to the foot. So it's 7.8. So yeah, 7.9, centimeters in that space. And so what my plan is to, I've got a 3D printer now, so I think I'll 3D print that part, this section, and then that can just be inserted. You've got this little wall at the bottom here, a bit of fence there, and I just think that would be really beautiful. To have this nice, simple diorama, just to stick some locos and some wagons on or something like that, just to take a photo. So yeah, that's, and sometimes Google Earth is really great for finding stuff. It's really good for checking sizes of things. Let me just turn it back on again. I'll give you an example. I can't remember exactly where it is, so I'm going to have to search. But it was in the Middlesbrough area, and there's a piece of track where you've got. I think it was Middlesbrough. Or maybe not. Wait a minute, wasn't Middlesbrough? Was it further up? Might have been the Hull area, actually. Or Grimsby. I think it was over here. That was it. So there was a section of track and road where you've got two. It's a level crossing and two bridges, all coinciding at the same time. There it is. There you go. Look at that. So you got a road bridge underneath, a road bridge over the top with a level crossing on it, and the railway line going across that. I mean, that's really cool. That's the kind of thing that would be really cool to model. And the nice thing is, you can use Google Earth, go down and have an actual look at it. You can see the physical, look about it. Excuse me, that's my friend. Give me a second. That was my friend. I phoned him up just before I started the live stream to tell him that I was going to be doing a live stream, but he wasn't in or something, so he didn't answer. But yeah, like I say, you've got this, and if we just scroll across here a little bit further, ooh, a bit too far there. Okay, I was hoping it would stop on that, but yeah, so there you go. You got the road going underneath like that. I mean, it's just got so many layers. That's pretty nifty there. It does look weird when you look at Google Earth. Google Earth does have some strange ways of doing 3D stuff. Another little bit of line which I find quite interesting is similar to something in roughly my area, and that is over here where you got so this is Staley Bridge here, formerly Staley Bridge West. There used to be a signal box over here, but if you look, we've got two road bridges where the line is split, and they're of different designs. Look, one is a modern looking one. So you've got a small one there. You got that one there, and then we got the stone bridge here. So again, you've got just layers of interesting there. So yeah, oh gosh. So here's a silly little story for you. I'm gonna have to find it first. Just take a couple of seconds. Hang on a sec. So a few weeks ago, so this here is where the trams out of Ashton go, across over the railway line, and this is the Heaton Norris route one. So if we look, what you've got is Stockport, Heaton Norris Junction, which goes up, and this is the parliamentary line, which has Reddish and Denton, and then it either goes into Guybridge this way, which then takes it up to York and Leeds York route, or it comes up this way and takes there used to be a junction that went there, and then there used to be a piece that went across there as well, and then this just over here, this was the OAGB junction, because the railway line used to go under sort of a tunnel kind of thing and went up this way, and this is the line that used to go up to Oldham, and would sort of join on there. And I think it had a triangle junction there, but this was lifted long time ago. Now, when I first moved here, they still had that bit of track there, and there was a signal box here, which was Ashton Moss South, I think it was called. This is Ashton Moss West junction. So I went and had a bit of a thing. In fact, where is it? Going to show you something in a moment if I can find it. I'm going to put my video camera up there. Here. That's what it was under there. I'm going to have to get a bit further than. No. Where did I put that camera? This side. Got it around here somewhere. Did I put it on top? My little thingy. Where is it? I can't even see. Let's get a bit of light down here. There it is. It was next to the thing I was trying to look at. Okay, going to show you something somewhat embarrassing. Yes, in fact, there are still wires up. If I don't know if this will work. Yeah, it should just be high enough. You can't really see anything. But I don't know if you can see, there's a mast there. Now if they went into the car park area, yes, they did. There you go. This is one of the 1500 volts DC power for the Class 76s and stuff, because what they would do, there were some sidings here. They used to actually store the Royal Train when it came to Manchester about here. But there was some interchange sidings here so that they could go from the DC to diesel power if they were being taken that way or, that way. So, yeah, add a short piece. Anyway, so we just find this file. It was one of the last ones I videoed of it, so it should be towards the top. taking its time. Okay, right, I found it. Okay, so what happened was I took a trip up here to take a photo of the Glass 142. Sorry, take video of the 142s leaving Manchester for the last time. And well, on my way up here, there was a tram crash. Some idiot had gone and driven across the tram tracks when the tram came along, and the tram hit it and smashed it all into all this area here. Even knocked the overhead wire pylon over. It was like hanging over to one side. But they repaired it in a couple of weeks. Anyway, so I went here and I took some. I took this footage. So this, is it's the last of the 142s leaving Manchester. A bit bouncy. And he gave me the horns. I don't know if you heard that. It's just, I'll turn it up a little bit. Here it comes. That was it. So what happened was I came to over here, and like I say, there'd been that tram crash. You can see it's all knackered up the front end there. And I was an idiot. I tried doing more things at the same time than I had hands. So what happened was it was raining. So I'm holding an umbrella with one hand, and I'm holding my video camera with the other hand, and I'm on top of my bicycle. So I'm standing astride my bike, and I decided to sort of shuffle forwards a little bit for the side shot. I'm just going to turn the volume down. Just getting the numbers. And you can see it made quite a mess of that car, that van. Now I'm guessing that this bit here was knocked in, and the bit at the top there was where the ambulance, where the fire brigade probably chopped it up to get to him and extract him. And this was when I fell over. So what I did was I decided, okay, what I'll do is I'll just shuffle forward, and then I went. Fine. Still fucking stupid. So yeah, that wasn't a very smart thing to do. And I mean, fortunately, it wasn't, didn't damage himself too much. But so yeah, that was the tram crash. Just a couple of screen grabs from it. That was the mess it did to the tram. It even broke off one of the doors, one of the sets of doors. And like I say, just went smashing into all this area here. And this crane here was holding the overhead wire up because it had been basically pulled out of the ground, So, yeah, that wasn't a bit good. But unfortunately, that was what I did to myself. I removed the skin on the top of my hand, and I went down hard on my left knee, and removed like the top skin off of that, and that was like scabby for a week. That was pretty gross. That was it after a few hours. So yeah, that was me being stupid. Yeah. So yeah. So there's a lesson to you, and obviously to myself. Don't do too many things at the same time as you've got hands. Walking astride my bike, all that happened was I bumped the handlebars, and they basically twisted and jackknifed, and then I went stumbling over the bike and just went down hard on my knee. My knee is now healed more or less. However, it's still got a lot of swelling on. You sort of push it, and it kind of goes like that. It's horrible. So yes, yeah, Crowthorne Junction. That's right. That was the section. That was Crowthorne Junction. Was this? So that Guybridge West Junction, and then Crowthorne Junction was there. And there's a fun little thing down here, actually. There's a little bit of railway line just here. If you look, you can just about see there's a little canal railway thing here. And you can sort of go down here. And you can see it just through the fence here, look. Does it stop it? No, it stops too far over. It's really annoying when it does that. But yeah, there's a little bit of railway line there in that little canal. Little canal thing here. Let me just tilt that. If I stick on Time Traveller, you can find bits where it's not quite as overgrown. Is that the best one? That's probably one of the worst. But yeah, it sort of goes between these two bits and that bit over there. I think it's got a little spur here as well. Yeah, and it's still in use, believe it or not. It's still in use. Yeah, and another bit of railway line that's lost. So there used to be approximately here. There used to be a junction that came off there and went across this way, went across the top of town here on a parallel route, and then went there. And this was like removed in the 1930s, and it sort of it went across here, and then along there, all the way down here, and you can just about make about. There's a trail under that, goes under that, and then it used to go underneath here and pop out there. When I first moved to Manchester, you could actually go through that tunnel underneath there. Can't anymore. It's been blocked up. And it went down here, went across there. Yeah, it went around here, across there, and then joined on at Denton Junction. So that was an alternative route to get across to there. And there's a section that it went down here, and somewhere around, somewhere down this line, was it there or was it one further down? There's another one down here somewhere. No, not there. I think it was this one. And let's see if we can. Time when the weather wasn't quite so green there. Yes, somewhere down here, there was there's an old turntable on one of these little nook and cranny things. Yeah, there used to be a turntable. I can't remember. It was down there somewhere. Maybe it was one. Maybe it was over here. No, 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 no. But yeah, it's interesting to sort of look at all these different lines. So this one here, this is the Woodley. There's a junction, and this comes off its freight only line here, and it had a sort of double thing on. The first one was the bin liner terminal at Bredbury. So it's Manchester Waste Disposal, and then here, it used to go down to about there actually, I think. And it used to be a oh, there it is. It's still there. Yeah, a stone terminal. Hasn't been used for years, but it has been used here and there. So yeah, that's another little thing, another little hidden. I walked down that when I first moved to Manchester. I went exploring all over the place, and this is one of the routes that used to come down here along sort of the back there under this, and you can see how I used to follow this and then go to that, because this is the freight only route that takes from Hazel Grove across here, and then you've got the other bin liner terminal, another bin liner terminal here, which is the North Endon one, and then right after is the former Blue Circle cement terminal, and that used to and that's got potential for interesting stuff. It's one of those small little freight things that could be done. And what I like about this is the way, like I say, you got your track going alongside, and then here, this nice little thing. But this is towering over the loco. I do like that. You can also see the North Endon signal box there, which is really, really tall, so it can see over the bridge. And it's got a sort of a double ladder thing going on. But yeah. So this is the route that goes down to Altrincham, and then through down for Northwich. But check out the point work there. It's a little bit interesting, isn't it? Sort of, it's two-way with a catch point built into it. That's what it's like now. So it's a stone terminal instead of a cement terminal. But yeah, I prefer the cement terminal. With a class 40 there. Yeah, that's sort of got not diorama, sorry. Imagine this being a branch line, or even just a terminal. Just having an end-to-end layout with a terminal next to it. That'd be a nice looking layout. So yeah, like I say, so many interesting little spots, and and then the junction goes there. This piece has been lifted now, I think. Still, I've got some bits of it left. It's all lifted up here, I think, anyway. Yeah, it looks like it's lifted. Yeah, it's all lifted now. And this used to go over for the I forgot what the name of it is now. Oh gosh. There's a chemical terminal there. And then it continued on and joined on to the Glazebrook, yeah. But another little interesting spot is... oh, wait a minute. Is it on that line? Is it on the other one? Eccles, that's the one I was thinking of. So another little interesting bit, which doesn't really exist anymore, at least I haven't seen it for a while. So it's the old little branch line that went down a hill, down, and then goes underneath, curves around below, and then okay, it's still there. I didn't think they were still doing it, but yeah. And it had to be propelled backwards. So this was a propelling move rather than a runaround. You know, it looks like they can run around now, but they never used to be able to. I wonder what the time travel is like for this. Yeah, still no different. It never used to be a runaround. Looks like they've redone it. But that was a nice little little thing. So, like I say, you know, lots of interesting little spots. There used to be another one. Oh, this is Barton Aerodrome. One of the things that's sad now is how so you got Trafford Park area here. So this is the Freightliner terminal, and this is the Welfare Distribution terminal, intermodal one. But they used to have here, as you can just about see, used to have the tram, sorry, the Trafford Park railway, and it used to sort of twist and wind around various places. So this is one that's recently been lifted, and that's right next to Trafford Centre. But it also had another section that came off here and sort of went, you know, wound its way through and around, you know, under here, went across here, and then sort of went across the road. You know, it's all been lifted now because they're building new tram lines through here. But yeah, all went up through there, and it'd follow up to here, and it would go to the there we go, to the starch factory, which is where Cerastar operated from. So you get Cerastar tanks that would go from here to Trafford Park, then would be taken down to Warrington, and then from Warrington they would travel up the east coast, up the west coast main line to Scotland for starch traffic. So there's Manchester United football stadium. Another little place that's gone now, but when I first moved around, it was here. So this is Manchester Piccadilly train station. This is the line that goes through Oxford Road and Deansgate, and then splits to go up, you know, for the towards Liverpool, or down for Trafford Park, and the other route towards Liverpool. This is the new chord that they put in a few years ago, which really screwed over the the Museum of Science and Industry, because they used to have a track that used to go up to here, and so they go there and then they'd sort of wind up back this way and then back, but now it's been severed. Don't know if no. So yeah, sadly, it can't join on the main line anymore. So that's a real shame. They can just trundle backwards and forwards. Now, another interesting little bit that you might be interested in, maybe, is this area here, which has been redeveloped. But if we jump back a few years, this is Coronation Street. There we go. There's Coronation Street. If click on one of these, there you go. So, yep, that's where Coronation Street used to be. So that's the old cobbled street, and 180 degrees. There are different buildings and shops and stuff like that, which is somewhat interesting. They've gone and moved it now, so they're going to redevelop the land, and it's now here. So that's the Coronation Street Mark II. And it's amusing how the cobbled, the houses here are all the same, and this shop and this area is all exactly the same. It looks like they've added extra bits here, but in there. But yeah, it's interesting how they've got all those little elements. But yeah, the another thing that's there, and to be honest, I don't know why they did this chord thing here to join Victoria to Piccadilly area. I think was a big mistake. I think they should have done a different way. I think they should have put this back in, because this is a viaduct. If we let's see, oh, there we go, that's nice. So this is a bit of old viaduct that the line used to go along, and so it came around here and went up there, across here, joined on this line, and then went up here, goes up here, and then splits off and goes to Manchester Victoria that way. So look, it largely does the same thing. And so you can either, if they will maybe put a tunnel or something to get it to that way and that way as well, it could go to Manchester Piccadilly, then reverse and go through Victoria, and it wouldn't have to go through this part here, because this section here is a bottleneck. It's one of the busiest sections of line, and it's just 2 tracks. They keep saying they're going to double it, but the problem is there's not really a lot of room to do it, especially here. It's between a car park and, at the university area here. So, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But this section up here, so this is where the Commonwealth Games were done. And this, if I don't know how far it'll go back. Yeah, okay. So this is when they were building it. But there was a junction over here, because over here is where the old Clayton works were, the Bay of Peacock works, where they made things like Class 35s and and so on. They made some 25s as well. So yeah, that was the Bay of Peacock works about here. I think it was there. It's been a while since I've looked, But yeah, there used to be an offshoot here, I think it was, and it was there, but that was closed many years ago. And then the other one is there's a stone terminal here, a little bit more developed now, but you can see there is a class, that's the 66, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 sidings. And this used to be, this whole area here used to be Gorton Works. And here was Gorton Depot. And if I jump back a few years, this is the original roundhouse that used to be there. So, yeah, that was the roundhouse for that depot. So, like I say, all sorts of interesting stuff around. Anyway, it is nearly 10:15, and I do know that the MRYCG guys are going to be doing a live stream of their own. I don't want to get in the way of that. So if I stop now, that gives people a chance to have a cup of tea and get ready to watch them. So I might even pop by if that's possible. We'll see what happens. But for now, I'm going to get going. Had a nice little chat, and I will catch you next year, which is just a couple of hours away. So have a good New Year, everybody, and hope everything works better for 2021 than it has been for 2020, because 2020, hasn't been terribly good for us. So, Happy New Year, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.